so many things, like how to love and how to lose and how to choose.
Well, hello, this is Linda Carbonell, and welcome to another edition of Walking Through Life. Today I happen to have the author of the newly released book, A Badass Girl's Guide. And the book is for and about the high-achieving, powerful woman who's ready to release those last stuck points and truly have it all. CJ is a criminal justice expert and victim advocate. She is author of newly released book, Badass Girl Guide. That was a question. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so I have the first question to ask you. Are you ready for a first question?
I'm ready.
How did you transform the challenges you faced when you were young?
When I was a child, I was molested several times. I was what's known as a serial victim. I was very desperate for attention and affection, and that made me a perfect target for predators. And so I was molested at several times. And then when I was a freshman in college, I was raped by a sheriff's deputy that I was dating. And there wasn't a word for date rape back then, so I didn't really understand what had happened to me. I just knew that something awful had happened. I lived with the trauma of those events for a decade, and then my world came crashing down as the memories started to resurface and I had to start dealing with it. And the stress of those events and the trauma of those events led me to develop two debilitating autoimmune conditions, lupus and scleroderma.
Oh, wow.
And I became so debilitated by 2000 that I couldn't go up and I had to go up and down the stairs on my hands and knees. I couldn't hold a coffee cup or open a door to twist a doorknob. I was so ill. I looked like an old lady. And in 2002, the doctors told me that my heart was failing and that I could die at any time. And let me tell you, Linda, I was terrified. I dove into a deep depression and basically waited to die. Then I was given the opportunity to meet with a Tibetan Buddhist Lama for advice. And I hobbled up to the Lama's house and I made a pitiful bow and I burst into tears. And I shared my story of woe and I waited for him to sympathize with me. And instead, I learned that Lamas don't do dramas. The Lama instead gave me a cosmic head slap and told me to stop feeling sorry for myself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And I was shocked and I was offended. I couldn't help myself, let alone anyone else. But he insisted. And on the way home, I'm driving, thinking, what can I possibly do in my debilitated state to help anybody, when an ambulance went flying by with a siren blaring. And I said a quick wish for the person inside that they would find help and healing. And I thought, well, that was simple. I can do that. So I started sending good wishes to the drivers around me, and I let cars go in front of me in line. And I started doing things like letting the mom with the crying baby go ahead of me in line at the grocery store, and giving my cane to a woman who was struggling to walk. And it felt really good to do those things. And so I started making it a daily practice to do at least one act of kindness a day. And I would pick up trash off the sidewalk, or I would leave random inspirational notes on the driver's side door of cars at the cancer center, or inside books at the bookstore, because everyone's looking for something from the universe to tell them that it's going to be okay. And I felt happier. And I reached a point where I was so filled with joy and gratitude for every moment of my life that it no longer mattered whether I was sick or ill or even living or dying. I was just content. And at that point, within 18 months, my condition went into remission.
Nice.
And I feel better today than I have felt in decades.
That's great. And you know, I really believe in the karma of kind acts. I know that I found several people that do things out of the kindness of the heart, and you know, they either do it anonymously or they just do it just because we wanted to, you know, and it made them feel good. And I noticed that. So when I started doing that, I felt good too, you know, and I didn't have an experience like you did with the dental armor, but I think for me, I think it was more or less seeing the faces of the people that you're making a difference for that did it for me. It was like there was a lot of smiles, there was a lot of head nodding, there was a lot of, you know, when you tell somebody you love them, it makes so much difference in their life, or, you know, just spontaneously, you know, going up to them and saying, you know, have a nice day, or whatever it is. And so I noticed that in my life too. And so for you, is this part of is you go about this in your book too? You
A
talk
little
about
bit,
this?
I
Yeah,
do.
good.
Science has actually proven that when you perform an act of kindness, you get a dose of mood-boosting serotonin and
Ah,
pain-killing endorphins. So you're literally healing your body from the inside out when you do these acts of kindness.
wow.
Very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
My book doesn't directly address that, although I do talk a little bit about that at the end when I talk about healing from post-traumatic stress and from trauma of sexual victimization.
Yep. Yeah, because I have a similar story because I also have PTSD too, and I had to work through that like you did, and I still have periods where I'm triggered and it's kind of scary, but I know it's only temporary now, whereas before it would affect me for so long, you know. And I think the biggest thing for me is to being able to talk about it, like you shared, being able to. I mean, I honestly admit that I have a therapist, I have Mary, and now I have you, and all this positive stuff coming into my life, and doing this stuff is making a difference for me. And I want to make sure that I tell the audience too that this is a very good subject, and I would love to have you come back and talk about just that at some point too, if that would be something
I
that you
would
could do.
love that. I would
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, because today I really want the audience to get to know you and know more about your book and, the things that you have done, the influences that you have made for the other books that have come out. And also, one of the things that we were talking about was tapping points for me too, in times that come up for the movement. You're talking about movement. So tapping points are the movement? Is that it?
No, the movement I'm referring to is the Me Too movement and
Oh,
going
that's what.
beyond the Me Too movement. Yes,
Okay.
the Me Too movement is a powerful tipping point that is moving our society toward greater understanding and awareness of sexual assault and its impact on the
Oh.
victim.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take people beyond Me Too. Beyond Me Too is important, but it's focused on victimization.
Right.
Beyond Me Too is about healing. It's
Absolutely.
about it's about acknowledging what happened to you, transforming it inside of you so that it becomes less painful over time, healing the trauma, really getting that it wasn't your fault,
Yeah.
that it happened, that it was the perpetrator who was responsible for this, but forgiving yourself, because we tend to blame ourselves. We tend to feel guilty and turn the blame inward
Yeah.
because we don't know how to process it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes there has to be self-forgiveness, sometimes there has to be forgiveness of others.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Me Too is about taking people past that point where they feel like they're stuck in victim mentality
Right.
and getting to that place of joy and happiness and authenticity that they long for. People crave that kind of life, and it's possible. You can have it all.
Right. And you know what? I mean, I really would like. I know that you are offering to give 2 free books out to people that emailed you. So I thought about it, and I said, I wonder if she would send me some
I
or your
will.
books,
I would
and
happy to
autograph
do
it for me, So I want to make sure that we have a chance too to go back to your newest book and how you came about to write that.
Well, I'm a criminal justice expert and victim advocate of 30 years. I've worked with rape, crisis, and domestic violence programs. I've run a child advocacy center for abused children, and I was the director of victims issues for the North Carolina Attorney General. My master's degree is also in human violence. I studied every awful thing a person can do to another person at the interpersonal level and at the institutional level, meaning war and terrorism and things like that. So I understand violence in all its forms and what drives perpetrators to do what they do and the impact that has on the victims. And that's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked in the field for 20 years, and I got frustrated dealing with crime and violence after they happened. I want to do something to help people be safe and keep it from happening at all.
Right.
So the Badass Girl's Guide, Uncommon Strategies to Deal with Predators, teaches the reader how predators think about and groom their victims, the kinds of predators that are out there and how they select and groom their victims, what they don't want you to know. This is really important. There's a whole chapter on what predators don't want you to know and don't want you to do. And your job as a potential target of a predator is to fail the predator interview, meaning that you become a bad potential victim. So if somebody rubs against you in the grocery store or at the subway and you push them away and you say, back off or leave me alone, you've just failed that part of the interview, which is a good thing.
Yep.
So if somebody makes an inappropriate comment or joke, and you put up a boundary and say, I'm not comfortable with that, or that was inappropriate, you just told the predator, the perpetrator, that you're not somebody who's going to tolerate, that you're somebody who's not going to tolerate that kind of behavior. And you've just failed that part of the interview. So the more you can show that you would be a really bad victim for them, the less likely they are to target you, to victimize you. And there's also, that's really.
What a great, yeah, that would be, I mean, you know, I would definitely say I would love to have that book. I would love to. So make an exception and make me the third person.
Okay. Well, I will send you a copy of the book. Absolutely, Lynn, just because you're so lovely.
Oh, thank you.
The book also has chapters on how to fight, even if you don't know any martial arts or self-defense moves. And I'm still in poor physical condition because of the lupus, but I feel confident that my advice is to release your inner Tasmanian devil. Yeah. So you fight, pinch, grab, twist, gouge, scratch every body part you can find on the perpetrator, and they're going to drop you like a hot rock because they did not intend to get caught up in a fight with a wildcat. Right. Imagine, as I say in the book, imagine that there's a 1-pound squirrel that keeps getting into your bird feeder. And so you sneak up on the squirrel and you grab it, that little 1-pound rodent, and you think, oh, I got you. No, you don't. That little squirrel is going to fight and bite and scratch for all it's worth, and you're going to drop it.
Yep.
It's going to win that battle. So that 1-pound rodent can beat a 120-pound woman in a heartbeat, or a 250-pound man in a heartbeat. Yep. So if you release your inner Tasmanian devil and become that whirlwind of fist and feet and fangs, you're going to surprise the perpetrator. He was not expecting somebody who was going to fight him, and chances are really good that you can get away. There are also chapters on how to navigate the criminal justice system if the worst happens, how to make a report to law enforcement. There's a chapter on human trafficking and what that's all about.
Oh, wow.
And chapters on post-traumatic stress disorder, and then moving on toward the healing.
I mean, I've got to get this book. This is just.
I will send it to you today.
Oh, would you really? I love it.
Yes, I would.
I would really. I mean, this would be something that would be. I mean, you know, somebody that also suffers from PTSD, having a tool like your book is just so important for us. You know, having you as a guest on this show, so we have an audience that can actually relate to what you're talking about, I think is so important for my viewers or for anybody that maybe need this or want this. You know, absolutely. I mean, we all want to know how to be safe and how the predators work and, you know, all of that stuff. I mean, what a wonderful book. You know, I mean, I haven't read it yet, but
it's very unique because it covers everything you need to know. And I read 16 books in preparation for writing this one, and they were mostly written by martial artists.
Yep.
Who wanted, formal self-defense moves that are very difficult to remember unless you practice. And right. I suggest people get self-defense training or martial arts training, but for those of us who can't get it and then keep practicing until it gets embedded in our muscle memory, you know, just going crazy on the perpetrator is your best bet.
Yep. Yelling, screaming, scratching, biting.
Screaming, scratching, bite. Yep. All of it.
That sounds like so. I wanted to get in a little bit about the other books that you had been talking about. I think one of them was The Pursuit of Happiness, maybe?
There are 2 books that my story is featured in. One is Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff.
Happy for No Reason.
The other is Be Invincible by Vince Papale. He is the Eagles player who was a walk-on on the team in the 70s. And ended up playing for the Philadelphia Eagles for 3 years. And he wrote a book about inspiring people who've inspired him, and he included my story in there, which was very nice. Marcy's the one that named me one of the happy 100 people on the planet, which I thought was awesome.
Yes. Yeah, well,
but I do have
I was just going to say, yeah, that makes total sense to me. You're the one of the most happiest. You've always got such a great, hello. Thanks. It's like me. Well, I have one too, so I could be number 102.
I do have a second book, and it's called Neptune's Gift, Discovering Your Inner Ocean. And it's about, I was reading a book called Tuesdays with Maury, which you may be familiar with, about it was a 1 paragraph out of the whole book, and it was about an average wave who's afraid because he's going to crash on the shore until he meets a larger wave who teaches him that he's not a mere wave, but the ocean itself. And I was so struck by this story, and I sat down on my computer, and in 24 hours, I wrote the book.
Wow.
Now, it took me 2 years to edit it, but in 24 hours, I wrote the basis of this book, Neptune's Gift. And it's about the journey I went through when I was so ill and facing death myself, about the lessons I learned by doing the acts of kindness about what makes for a happy life, how you greet the shore, whatever that may be. It may be a challenge, it may be an illness, it may be a death, it may be loss of a job. How you face the shores in your life with joy and gratitude and appreciation.
Like I said, that not only sounds like a good book for everybody to read, but again, I would love to read that book. I would love to read it. It sounds to me like you're a person that can really put words to things that I may need in my everyday life, and that people could so much benefit for you. And that's probably a gift that the Dalai Lama, I can't say it right, but he
It
knew.
was a Tibetan Buddhist Lama.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
it wasn't the Dalai Lama,
That
but it
he
was a
knew,
Buddhist.
right. But he knew that that was your gift. So that was probably why he said that, I believe anyway. And sometimes is that, it's like me. Sometimes I get stuck and, I can't see clearly or see what my purpose or what is the next step for me. And then just all of a sudden it hits me. And it's just great to be able to do that. And you're, like me, one of the few people that I have known that's been able to do that. And I just think it's so important in our life. So this would also be good. I mean, can you come back and do more shows with us with different subjects
I would
like
love
that?
to do that because there's so much that I learned in the process of going through of healing from the trauma and of healing from the illness that I would love to impart to your listeners.
It would be so good because, we all need this. We all need it, and most of us want it, and yeah, I just think that this is something that's right up the alley for walking through life. I think this would be good subjects for us. And Mary, too. We can have Mary on, too. That would be great, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be so much fun.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to give you an opportunity to say anything else to people about your book. And then maybe after that, we can give a little more info. I understand that you're willing to give 2 free books to the first 2 people that email you?
Yes, I am. The book is available on Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another CJ Scarlett author out there, but her Scarlett has 2 T's. Mine is
okay.
CJ Scarlett, like the color red, with 1 T.
Okay.
But it's The Badass Girl's Guide, Uncommon Strategies to Outwit Predators, and Neptune's Gift, Discovering Your Inner Ocean is also available on Amazon. For the first 2 listeners who email me with their mailing address, I will send them a copy of either The Badass Girl's Guide or Neptune's Gift. You can choose. My email address is cj@cjscarlett.com, and that's cj@cjscarlett.com, cjscarlett.com.
I think that I just think that I think it would really be awesome for somebody to actually go and find out more about you, not only through your email, but is there another place? I mean, are you available where people can find out more about you and the books and all that too?
Absolutely. I have a website, and it's just www.cjscarlett.com.
Okay. So that's, I think that the audience will be receptive to that. I know I am. I'm looking forward to participating in more shows with you, too. I think you've got a great story, but not only a great story, but great strategies for all of us to learn. And, by you being willing to come and share, and it's so hard to share that part of your story that involves the PTSD. I know how hard that is, but I also know how wonderful it is that you can share now, because that's a big deal. It's a big deal,
It is. I spent the first 30 years so ashamed and so filled. The PTSD ruled and ruined my life. I mean, many aspects of my life. Now I see them as gifts, but at the time it seemed like it was ruining my life. Yeah. And then I spent the next several years, once I started getting help, I got into therapy, individual and group therapy for the sexual assaults. Then suddenly I went from victim to survivor. Yeah. And I wore it like a badge of honor. I would stop total strangers on the street and say, I was sexually assaulted, and da da da. I would just blurt out my story to total strangers. It was embarrassing looking back on it, but that's part of the process. Yeah. And then I moved beyond that to acceptance and appreciation for the lessons I learned, and gratitude for the life I've come to build as a result of the resiliency I developed by going through those experiences. And I'm just where I am today is nowhere near where I thought I'd be. I mean, I never dreamed I could be this happy. I never dreamed I could be this fulfilled.
Mm.
And to have the life I have, I really have it all, Linda. And I know a lot of people are out there saying, I have the job, I have the marriage, I have the kids, but I still feel like there's something missing. These are the people that I'm trying to reach. These are the ones I want to say to you. There's something stuck there, and we can figure out together what it is. We'll figure out what's stuck, and we'll work through it, and we will find joy and authenticity and healing and peace on the other side.
Absolutely. And this is why I'm so glad that you're also giving your email out. So people, if they do have questions that they would like to ask you and maybe feature on the show, talk about it, whatever, I think that would be awesome. I really do. I really do want input from the audience out there. I think it would be great. And you're just so good at, putting it out there and answering questions for us. I really appreciate that. So I know that the show is just about over with, but what I would really like now is to maybe give a message to those people that are out there watching, that are feeling some of the things that you have felt in your life and could use a inspirational message from.
Okay, and you may hear my dog in the background. I apologize for that. He's decided it's time to go out. If I could give you one message, it would be that as hard as it is to accept sometimes, we are 100% responsible for our own lives. Where we are today is a result of the seeds we planted yesterday and a year ago and 10 years ago and a whole lifetime ago. And so if you're not happy where you are today, the good news is you can plant seeds today. They're going to lead to a better tomorrow. You can do an act of kindness for somebody. You can do an act of kindness for yourself. You can turn around a bad situation. I remember one day I was feeling really crummy and unappreciated by my family, and I felt so hateful, and I was working myself into a pity party that was turning into a grand pity ball. When the Lama's words came back to me, and I thought about it, and I picked up the phone and I dialed a random number, and I got the voicemail of a computer guy, and I left him a message, and I said, "You don't know me, but I want to tell you that even if no one ever tells you this, you are appreciated." And I hung up the phone. And in 10 seconds, I went from feeling horrible to feeling like $1,000,000, and I made someone else feel better.
Yeah, what a difference, huh? Yeah, absolutely. Well, CJ, I wanted to let you know, and I wanted to let the audience know that at the end of the show, I'll make sure that I put all the information about CJ and emails and all of that. So, I hope that you all go and email her, ask her questions, and, know that she's coming back so we can answer those, or she can answer those for you. Yeah. So anyway, I do want to say goodbye to you, CJ, for today, and I'm so glad you're going to be coming back again, and hopefully we can connect with you and Mary too, and get you guys to speak together too. I think that would be great.
That would be so much fun. And thank you for having me, Linda. You're a very gracious host.
Well, thank you. I try to be. Anyway, I do want to say goodbye for Walking Through Life today, and remember, we're all precious children of God. We're all different, and we all need a little help sometimes, and sometimes it's just asking, or if you can't ask, listening, watching, whatever. Okay? So I just wanted to say goodbye, and that's my inspirational message for today. Anyway, this is Linda Carbonneau saying goodbye for Walking Through Life today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Some days I can move mountains, and other times I can't get it right. But every step, Lord, that I'm taking brings me that much closer